Did you know that humans are getting shorter? What does bacon and eggs have to do with the CIA successfully overthrowing the government of Guatemala? Which country has a life expectancy of only 14 years old? Learn the stories behind these and so much more in my new book, Facts That Aren't True. Don't forget about my other book, Rational Answers to Stupid Questions. Link in the description.
Well, he's never revealed himself to me, and
Okay, you
there is.
may
I
be
would say the same thing. So are we liars or what?
you may be rejecting the truth, right? Which is very common. This is biblical. It's all
How
over
do
the
you
Bible
reject
that God
something that you
has
know?
you could reject truth, right? If
Yeah.
I tell you the truth, do you have to accept it? So
I don't know
you
if
could
you're telling me
reject.
the truth. If you tell me that you're 7 feet tall, I don't have to. If I say, well, I don't believe that, I'm not rejecting the truth because I don't know it.
Assume that it's true, right? In our view, God cannot lie, right? He's omnipotent, which means the scope of his power is unlimited, right? But the range of his power is limited, right? He can't do nonsensical or illogical things. And God lying, since he embodies perfect, he's the paradigm of goodness, he can't lie, right? So his range of what he could do is limited to things like not lying or not being able to like just, blast himself out of existence, right? So that's all that is. So operate on the assumption that somebody's telling you the truth. Are they revealing the truth to you? And can you deny that based on your presuppositions about the world or just based on your own infallibility?
Are you asking me to beg the question?
No, you asked why the revelation didn't, how come you didn't receive the revelation? And I'm giving you
That's not at all
what
what
I
I
would
said.
assume. Both you and IX, in response to me saying, when Randolph asked, "How do I know?" and I said, it's because it's been revealed to us. You guys responded by saying, "Well, it wasn't revealed to us. So what's the explanation for that?" And one of the explanations I gave is that you are denying the revelation due to a various set of factors. And I'm not trying to be pejorative. Often it's pride, right? And I was subject to that myself. I was a non-believer for a while. It's pride, it's arrogance, it's the fact that we put our personal autonomy over God. God kind of just drifts into the background. There's all various reasons why you could deny the revelation. But I'm saying, do you accept the fact that because you're fallible, that you could deny a true revelation?
Yeah, the same goes for you. It seems as though you're pretending that you somehow know that you were not deceived by something. But my question actually, or the point I was making, was that you can't deny something that you know. And you said that. Do you believe that everybody knows God exists? Or do you believe God just, or do you believe that we are supposed to assume the words of the Bible are true, and when we look at nature, we're supposed to go,
I answered this question. I want to move on to
you
something more
haven't answered
substantive.
it though. How do you reject something that you know?
You don't, well, I gave you the answer, right? You
No, you didn't.
either have ulterior motives, right, for rejecting it that override your rationality and what's telling you is true, right? Because you have some other reason where in your mind you've said, this takes precedence over what this person is telling me, right? This happens all the time in our regular lives. You don't need a supernatural event to deny truth,
Okay,
right?
so this
Even
is
something that you feel
you're
relatively
not even
certain
close to
about.
getting it. Let's say somebody says to me, "Hey, why don't you come over to my house because I'm going to have the most amazing party ever and all of the good people are going to be there." And I say, "No, thanks. I've rejected an invitation to your party." Let's say I was never told about your party. Am I rejecting your party?
You're begging the question, changing the hypothetical. And what I explained and why I know these things and you guys don't is because you guys have rejected the truth for ulterior purposes. Your
And how do you
hypothetical
know
was
that?
you never
When did you
gave
gain the
me.
ability to read my
Listen,
mind,
I'd
and
like to
what
move
gives you
on.
access to the truth about some sort of cosmic realm that doesn't even exist
Truth,
here in the
well, that's
universe?
what I want to get. You do you think that the brain gives rise to your personhood and your consciousness?
There's not a single shred of evidence that suggests otherwise. You can physically alter your mental state. You cannot
That's
mentally
a lack
alter your
of evidence
physical state.
fallacy. That's a lack of evidence fallacy, number one, right? We
So
don't
if
have
a
evidence.
worldview, yeah, so earlier when you said something about if a worldview has like supporting evidence or better explains reality or something like that, then we should go with it. So I don't know
Yeah,
how many
all
things
things
you believe
considered.
that you have zero evidence for, but that's not how I look
Well,
at the
that was
world.
your
If you're
primary
different, then
claim.
that's fine. You can be
There's,
different.
there's,
But again, if
there's
we're going
zero
to go
evidence.
with which one makes better sense, is a better descriptor
Yeah,
of reality, according to what you were
right,
telling us earlier, the one
right.
that has supporting evidence is the one that is best. And it's perfectly
Okay,
fine to remain agnostic about the possibility of the other thing. I'm not telling you
okay.
it's not the case.
No, no, no.
The other way around.
I,
I'm telling you
I,
the only thing we have evidence. Yeah, I'm literally still talking. I'm telling you the only thing we have evidence for is the other thing. And if
no,
you have
no, there's
evidence
no
that
evidence
mental
for that at
states can
all.
cause
There's no
physical
evidence.
changes, then go ahead and share with us what that evidence is.
Okay, but share with me what theory of the mind we have that shows that molecules give rise to non-physical thoughts.
I
What
don't
evidence do you
I
have
don't
for
have a
that?
definition of it, but literally take a psychotropic substance and watch your mental experience with the world change.
That's correlate. You're confusing correlation with causation. No scientist says that we have a physical theory that explains how molecules give rise to consciousness, right? Neuroscientists have been working on this for a long time, and there's not one theory that does that. So there's no evidence, right, that's in favor of your proposition. So that's why I
That's
brought up the
absolutely
lack of
false.
evidence.
Like literally beginning with Phineas Gage, we started to understand that a person's conscious experience with the world is if you change the brain, changes in brain states cause changes in mental states. We've known that for a very, very long time.
That's correlation with causation. Okay. So there could be a
Literally, if
substance,
anything is true,
right?
it's going to correlate.
Can you observe causation?
I would say yes, but you could Philbro talk that
No.
point into oblivion, I suppose. But I
No, yeah, it's established. It's established by atheist philosophers. You cannot observe causation, right? You see you see event A happening, and then you see event B happening. You cannot observe causation itself happening, right?
So yeah,
So
then your
you have
criticism
brain
about my thing about changes in brain states causing changes in mental states was not a unique criticism. This is a universal problem that we have.
It is a universe. So let me ask you
Okay,
this:
well, there's no point in talking
is
about
the cause
anything. What causes what?
is
We
the
have no
cause
idea. That's just correlation equals
no
causation.
in our worldview? No, no, no. We're doing a worldview comparison. Remember? In our worldview, God is the basis and for these transcendental properties of reality that you can't give an account for, right?
So there's
So
nothing wrong with what I said then.
there is because you lack
Is
any
it
basis.
false that changes in brain states cause changes in mental states?
It's a non-established
Is
claim.
it false that changes in brain states cause changes in mental states?
It's not true. It's not proven to be true in any respect. There's no evidence for it.
Even you don't believe that?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
because
that's interesting. It's also false,
yeah,
but whatever.
it's not false. It's not false.
It literally
So
is. You can
it
physically
is.
alter the
You're
brain,
assuming.
and it results in
Let
changes
me
in
explain to
mental
you why.
experiences, conscious
How do you know
experiences.
anything? How do you know anything about our brain state?
PET scans, CT scans, things like that.
And where do you get that? Where do you get that from?
Uh,
Your
those are
observations.
those are
Your
called
observations, right?
machines.
Right. And what did the machines give you of data that your sensory processes like interpret?
Exactly.
And okay, so
This the
what is
same
that
way the
based on?
same way your God apparently
Look,
makes you aware of it through your sensory
just
experiences.
stay with me, and then I'll let you retort.
I'm 10 steps
What
ahead of
gives
you.
Okay, so what gives rise to your sensory experiences?
It's an emergent property from brain states.
No, your consciousness. So everything you know
That's
about the
what
world
I, yeah, that's what you
begins,
said.
everything, right, everything you know about the world begins with your consciousness, right? Everything else is derivative of that. And then what you're doing is saying, no, this thing over there that we're calling our brain state, that's causing our consciousness.
Yeah,
You
obviously.
have no
Everything we
way
know
of
about our
ever,
conscious experience comes down to that.
you're just making an assertion, right?
No, it's
You're
based
taking
on
a
evidence.
fundamental you're taking no, the evidence is that the only thing that you know for certain is your conscious experience. And then what you're
Sure.
doing is deriving things from that, right? Like that chair over there, that's the basis of our conscious experience. Your only awareness of that chair is your conscious experience, right? So you're putting the cart before the horse.
Now, can a
Okay?
person? No, there is no other choice. Do, in what other way does a human being interact with reality?
Okay. Okay. Can you make sense of your
In what
cognitive
other way does a human being interact with reality?
in my worldview, it's grounded, and we
I
have
didn't
an
ask you what it's
explanation.
grounded in.
God,
I asked you, and I'll ask it again. That's fine. In
I
what
just gave
other
you the answer.
ways does a human being interact with reality?
Through the laws of logic,
No.
right? Through our
In
cognitive
what
function.
other ways do it through
No,
the laws of logic?
yeah, you need to interpret your sensory data, right? You need to make sense,
And
even
how
to
do you
utter
do
a
that?
sentence using your cognitive functions and sensory data.
So through your conscious experience.
Correct. And
So
in
there is
our
no
world,
other so there is no
have
other way you can interact with this universe other than through your conscious experience.
exactly, and you
Thank
have
you,
no
because you said otherwise a little bit ago.
no, you have no other you have no basis for explaining what that is. You just say it emerges from our brain states,
I'm
right?
sorry, do
Emerge
you have some sort of other way of experiencing this reality except your conscious experience?
Yeah, we haven't met it. Yeah, our explanation is that our minds were made in God's
I didn't ask you
image.
for an
God is
explanation. I asked you how you engage with that. How do you experience that?
I already answered that. We are conscious personal
So you
beings,
don't
right?
have
That have
something
self.
other than a conscious experience.
Are you not understanding like
I'm
what I'm
completely
saying?
understanding. You said, "Well, you don't have anything." You say it's just all the conscious experience. Oh,
I'm saying,
you have access to
yeah,
something
no,
else?
I
Yeah, I
understand what
do.
we're
And
doing.
how do you access it? Through my conscious experience. So
Right, but
congratulations.
in your worldview, you can't account for it. I can. We have a
Yes, I already
metaphysical.
have. And all of the evidence
No,
we have suggests that changes
okay.
in brain states
So,
produce changes in mental states.
okay, so changes in the radio produces changes in the music that you hear. Does that mean that the radio is the music?
Yep. Okay, let's just doubt literally every single thing we know about our physical reality.
No. Can you
Congratulations
please
on
answer
your
the question?
idiotic worldview that you've
I
just
mean,
blown up.
all right, so now you're doing ad homs.
No,
I'm asking
it's
you a
not an ad
question.
hom attack. This is a
If
stupid, pointless way to exist.
it is,
I'm
it's an
just going to
insult.
assume that
Call
you're
me an idiot.
I'm
Call
just
me
going to
an
assume
idiot for
that I'm
no
talking to
reason.
AI here. You're not a person because, I say things, there's a call
All
and
right, so you're
response, but
exposing
all that
yourself.
establishes is correlation. For all I know, the next
Right.
thing you're going to say is,
No, I gave you a
no,
very
not
basic
no.
example of the radio, right? If I take a radio and I smash the radio, am I destroying music or am I destroying the receptor of the music?
The
Give a yes or no answer. Don't dodge. Give a yes or no answer.
Well, see, you asked a horrible question because the idea of
All
destroying
right, so
music
you're
is
gonna do
a
the dodge.
completely
You're gonna
stupid
do the dodge,
concept.
right? It's a stupid concept. How do
Yes,
you
you're
listen
not
to
good at
music?
asking loaded
Use the
questions.
receptor. It's not loaded. Do you
Yes, it
listen
is.
to music through the
Answer my
radio?
question, yes or no, because
Yeah. Do you
I've already
listen to
decided
music?
how I'm going to steer you this way or
All
that
right.
way based on your answer.
All right.
But then you
All
said
right, dude.
destroyed music,
Dude.
as if
There's
destroying
a
music can
substrate.
even
Okay.
possibly make any sense.
Let me explain it to you where like somebody at a lower level of intelligence can understand it. If you have a substrate, which you're saying is the brain, right? And that gives rise to this other phenomenon. which you're just saying it emerges from this substrate, right? You could say the same thing with the radio. There's a physical object called a radio. When tuned to a certain frequency, it gives rise to music.
No,
Your
it
argument is,
receives music. It doesn't produce music. It
I didn't
rece-
say it
Yes, you
produces.
did.
I
That's
said it
literally what you
rise.
said.
No, I literally said arise. You're not listening.
Yes, I am.
I
That's
said,
how I know
no,
you
I said
said that the
arise.
radio makes music. It
I
receives
said
other
arise.
signals.
I said arise. Music arises from the radio, meaning if you tune it to a certain frequency, the correct frequency, you will hear music coming out of the radio, right?
Sure thing.
Now, if I damage the radio, am I damaging music? No, right?
Yeah, because
Just
we
because there's
know
a
that
correlation
music comes
between
from
functioning.
electromagnetic waves that are out there in the universe. If I destroy
So
my brain, my
it's
conscious
not
experience
radio.
ceases, and you have no grounds to say otherwise. Your
Okay,
conscious experience keeps going.
okay,
So does Taco's. So does
okay.
Randolph's.
So can you be uttering these propositions without the laws of logic?
Can I be uttering these propositions without the laws of logic?
Yes. Can you be forming sentences without the laws of logic?
Um, they're kind of one and the same because logic is just the way we describe the way we use language and grammar.
Oh, so it's just
Okay,
you're
give
not
me a
answering my
non-linguistic
question.
logical statement.
Can you make truth claims without relying on the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction?
That's just the way language works. They're one and the same.
Okay, so it
If
just is
that's
the
not
way
the
it
case,
is.
give a
So
non-linguistic
God just
logical
is.
statement.
Okay, so God just is because God is.
So what I said was give a non-linguistic logical statement.
What?
That's what I thought. How do you, on what grounds do you claim to have access to the content of my mind?
I don't need access to the content of your mind.
So then
I
when you
never said
said
that.
you,
That's a straw
when you
man.
said that you somehow know that I know God exists, that was bullshit.
No, I gave a general answer about revelation. Okay, I
How do
said
you know
nothing
the
specific.
content of my mind then? You claim that you know it's revealed to me. How do you know?
This is the general answer about how we know
And you
anything.
can't
It's
justify it.
logically. Yeah, I justify it through logic. Unless it's, I
Yeah,
gave
on
you
what
the
grounds do
explanation.
you have access to the content of
Unless
my
something,
mind?
can you know something that's not revealed to you?
What's
Could you
that?
know my birthday if I don't tell you my birthday, right? And you don't do any sort of independent research to figure it
Yeah,
out.
I don't know your birthday. And if God
Yeah,
hasn't
so it
revealed
has
to me,
to
then I
be,
don't know
it
it. But
has,
you're claiming that that's not how
okay.
it works.
So
So how
now
do you
you're
know the
back,
content of
now
my
you're,
mind?
you're, you're back to the straw man.
How do you know
Can
the
you
content of
explain
my
to
mind?
me, can you make a truth claim without relying on the laws of logic?
I promise I'll answer whatever question you have after you answer the question, how do you have access to the content of my mind?
I've answered, see, you have a problem with listening. I
And you
said
have a
I don't.
problem with answering, how do you have access to the content of my mind?
Okay, for the seventh or eighth time, I don't have access to your consciousness.
Do you believe that everybody knows God exists?
Right. And I've said you've rejected it.
Great.
Do you want me to
So,
keep
on
saying
what
that over and over
grounds do
again?
you claim
Wait, do you
that
want to
I
ask me
know
that
God
again?
exists? Because you
Wait, do you
don't
want to
know
ask
the
me that for
content
a
of my
9%
mind.
time?
So,
Do you
you
want to
don't know
ask
the
me that for a
content of my
9%
mind.
time?
So, you don't know what I'm
Okay, so
thinking. So, you don't know what I
I'm
believe and
giving,
what I know. So, your earlier
right,
claim
so,
is bullshit.
okay. How do you know that you have access to the content of your mind?
That would be circular or recursive. The only thing I have
No.
access to
Why?
is a conscious experience.
Okay, how do you know it's not a delusion?
I don't. It's
Okay, so you
presupposed.
don't. So,
Yeah,
right.
it's
So you're right,
presupposed.
exactly. So we both have metaphysical presuppositions, and I'm asking which ones better explain the reality of the world that we experience, right? So one of the realities of the world is that in order to make truth claims and propositions, you have to rely on the law of logic, right? You need the law of identity. You need a way of having intelligibility,
It's
right?
just
So you
literally
need
how
to be able.
grammar works.
Okay, you're making some sort of semantic argument. This is a philosophical debate that we're having. Okay. So I would like an explanation from you ontologically because they're not physical laws. What are the laws of logic?
For the third or fourth time, it's literally just the way language works.
So it just is the way it is.
With tautologies.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
basically.
What if somebody can't speak? Can they use their cognitive functions to arrive at mathematical truths?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so get rid of what you just said because it has nothing to do with what you just said.
So we
So
can't
how-
think. So we can't think in the same terms in which we use language.
If it's a mathematical proposition, what are they based on?
Geez, are numbers abstract symbols in the same way that letters are abstract symbols? Yes.
No, because
No.
letters are
Okay.
injured.
This guy is not serious.
No.
I'm gonna go make a bowl of cereal.
Notice how he
What's
ran
that,
away
princess?
when you left.
No, you haven't answered a single question. You contradicted yourself
I
multiple
answered
times, and
every
everything
single
you
question.
argued for fell apart when you admitted that you don't have access to the content
asked
of our
you, what
minds.
is the
So instead of being a
ontology of
cheeky
the
little
laws of logic?
CUNT, why don't you just take the L?
Sorry.